What does it mean to die to your flesh and live in your spirit? We're going to talk about that with Megan May and Carissa Motley today here on the 167.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
Good morning. Welcome back to the 167. I'm Carissa Motley, joining you this morning. We're having a time here today. Lucas just smashed his finger in the mic stand. Megan got stuck in traffic. So we're off to a great start, but we're glad to be here. So I am here with Pastor Lucas and Megan May, our connections coordinator. I don't have a title. My title is Lucas's wife. So that's my special gift.
Which is the best title.
It is, in
Only
fact.
one person in the world has it.
It's true, and it's me. Lucky me. All right, so we are back. We're talking about week 2 of our Life in Technicolor series. So a couple things before we get started. I do want to shout out a couple people who said, I've had 2 people specifically say that a couple weeks ago when we mentioned Avalon, that they were like, yes, I loved that band. Megan doesn't know who that is, but that's okay. And so shout out to Randy and Jessica, because you both told me that you were super hyped, like that we mentioned that band. It was really funny.
I absolutely remember that band. I couldn't name you one of their songs.
You sang one on the podcast. That's
Which
why
one?
we talked about them. Testify to Love.
Oh, yeah.
That's why it came up. And so I was like, oh, that's a good
I'm
band.
just saying it's like Match. Like, I remember that song. I didn't know it was Avalon.
Yeah.
Because it was that Avalon for him point of grace moment in Christian
Great
music.
era of all the harmonies, all the bands with all the singers. It was great. So shout out Randy and Jessica. I hope you're enjoying some good 90s CCM in your life. We all need a little more of that, right?
A little Big Tent revival
Little
going on.
Big Tent revival. Okay.
You also don't know who that is.
No.
It's all right. It's fun for us to talk about things that happened before Megan was even born, right? It's just so great.
Wasn't even
Every time that
conceived.
people talk about Christian abstinence culture, that's Big Tent revival. They used to do True Love
gosh.
Waits.
Oh, man.
I have a
Okay.
True Love Waits
So
ring.
we're not going to go down a huge rabbit hole on that, right, Lucas? Not going to go down
Sure.
the trail. And I also would like to shout out Lucas, who's drinking an Olipop this morning instead of a Mountain Dew. So
Is
we're
your eye still twitching?
Yeah.
Olipop, if you would like to sponsor us.
Yeah. Is your eye still twitching? Megan asked.
And your nose was stuffy.
My nose is still stuffy. My eye's not twitching.
He's going through withdrawals.
Yeah, fun fact, you looked up that like your sinus congestion is a result of not drinking caffeine, right?
Yeah, if you quit caffeine or reduce your caffeine intake, you will actually get what you think is a sinus infection because the capillaries in your nose and sinuses swell.
So that's cool.
This week when we talk about how your body has a desire and a mind of its own, that's what we mean.
Yeah, it's
cool.
having a reaction to not having that. It's like, I hate
Yeah.
You
this
also
so
have
much.
severe dry mouth, which is the most annoying of the
Get some
side
cough
effects.
drops. It'll be okay.
Like every night, I'm like, I feel like I'm in Colorado.
Chew gum.
Get chew gum in my sleep.
Sorry, that was really loud.
We just did that in the headphones. Yeah, if you want to be really annoying, like we do that in our microphones every once in a while on worship team practice, and
I
it's
used to do
the
that
worst.
as soon as we went to in-ears when I was still leading
Yep.
worship. Every time people put their in-ears in, I was just like,
It's awful because it's right like in your eardrums.
Yes.
Okay, so why are we talking about Lucas not drinking Mountain Dew? Well, he shared that in the sermon on Sunday. So if you didn't get a chance to listen to that, go back, take a listen. It's actually a momentous occasion in your life.
ugh.
So we're celebrating, encouraging you, right? So you were talking this week about doors and ways. So the difference, so you said a door. So you were talking last week about Jesus is the door, right? And so we have to go through that door to experience the Technicolor life. So a door implies a decision. You make a decision to go through that door. But a way, so the analogy was, Dorothy has the yellow brick road, right? When she gets into the Technicolor world, but she has a way, a road that she's supposed to stay on. And so similarly, we have, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And you said a way implies, oh boy. It's going to be that kind of episode, everybody. So a way.
This ginger ale is spicy.
I'm trying to quote you. Can you let me quote you? A way implies
I love when you quote me.
a discipline.
Yeah, a door implies a decision, but a way implies
A
a
way
discipline.
implies a discipline. So we are going to talk about disciplines a little bit here. But before we do that, I was just curious if you guys had an example you could give people besides quitting Mountain Dew. A time that you took a way, right? You were on a path, there was some path you were on that required discipline. Is there something you can think of where you have done that in your own life?
This one time, this microphone stand literally snapped shut on my finger. I did not swear.
This one time 10 minutes ago. You have any other?
I have lots of discipline stories, but they're not fantastic. Like I said, I joked, she's like, was there when you were on a way? I was like, yeah, when I was on a World of Warcraft guild, I had to log in daily to like do chores on the video game and make materials for raids and like study.
This is so lame.
But
You know,
I'm sorry.
do you know what's even
But-
more lame
but the
is that
thing
I
is-
knew him and we were dating and we still got married.
yeah, pre, post, and wedding World of Warcraft. But
I still married him.
it's crazy though, because if I had said that about a sport, you know, it's
Yeah.
like in 8th grade I played basketball, right? So what do I have to do? I have to show up, I have to go to practices, I
Right.
have to practice on my own, I have to prepare, I have to get shoes, I have to do all those things. And everybody's like, yeah, you know, that's discipline. I'm like, but if I say that about a video,
video
game,
game.
and I put more time into the video game, they're like, no, I don't think so.
Which kind of lame.
That was awesome.
He was really quite good, but that's the old you.
Yeah.
That's the old Lucas.
Yeah.
Played World of Warcraft a lot.
That's so funny.
And we still got married. But having kids kind of shifted that.
But I would say the other thing would probably just be, like now that we have our own kids, I'm like, man, I was pretty disciplined about my schoolwork.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I was just like, I was locked in, you know, and I didn't struggle academically usually, except in calculus. That was, why would anybody take calculus?
Calculus is hard.
And so, but I mean, like, I had systems and measures, and like one summer, my brother had bad grades, and my mom made him take this VHS class called Where There's a Will, There's an A.
Oh gosh.
Wait. First of all, you just said VHS class.
Yeah. That's what it was.
Do you mean like you pop the tape in and watch it?
Yeah. And it was like this big old, like, squishy binder. You know, like, do you remember like the foam binders that VHS would come in? So it had like 8 tapes per binder, and there's like 2 binders worth of it. And so my brother was required to watch it, but I just watched it with him. So, because it's like,
For funsies?
well, it helps you study. I got A's. So I was very disciplined about that in my life.
Okay,
What
also...
about you, Megan? What cool thing did you do?
But when you said VHS, you know, like last night at dinner, our 16-year-old was like, wait, you guys were born in the 1900s? Like, it like blew her mind. I was like, you know that.
Oh my god.
She went on about it for like 5 minutes, and I was like, girl, what?
We've been here.
Stop it. Yes, we were born in the 1980s. Like, can we just get over it? We had VHS tapes.
I had
rode in a-
VHS tapes too. Oh, sorry.
I rode in a car with my grandpa, still had an 8-track in it.
Ooh.
I kept trying to give him my
Old
Ninja
school.
Turtles cassette tape.
No, we had cassette tapes
play
on our
it.
cars, you know? I don't know. I grew up with VHS tapes, like Disney movies on them. But no, so in college, I've always been a very driven person. When I was younger, I had to go through the, like, I need help classes when you're little.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was for, like, reading when I was, like, in first grade. I can't remember. But then ever since then... I know. Ever since then, I'd been in like the extra classes. I don't know if it
Sure.
like helped that much or what, but anyways. So then going into college, I was always in honors and stuff, and so I had a lot of extra work to do on top of doing, you know, minor and major and everything that I did. And so for me to not freak out, I am not a procrastinator. Like, I am not. And so I would have, like, for the past 2 weeks, I'd lay out all of my assignments when they were due and then when I had to do them each day. And then I would have an assignment done usually a week or 2 weeks before it actually due. So I would, like, turn it in before then. At least I could, like, 3 to 5 days before it was even. And so all my friends are always like, what is wrong with you? You know? But
That's so weird.
my life was so crazy that, like, if I couldn't do an assignment that night or I was late at church or something, then that was okay, and then I could do it a different day. And so for me, I was like, okay, this is the only way I can survive. Like,
Sure.
I can't do an assignment day of. It's not going to be good. I'm not a procrastinator. I can't do it under pressure. It makes it worse for me. It doesn't get done. So that's what I did. And then I also just started running. which is like great, but also awful at the same time.
Yes.
And so, shout out Jessica. And so, yeah, that's been like a really interesting thing for me of like actually getting myself into the gym to practice it,
Sure,
you
yeah.
know, and get better.
Yeah.
I'm doing it more for like endurance, and like I'm, ran a 5K already, which is kind of crazy on accident, but,
I accidentally ran a 5K. Humble brag. I was just going to get groceries, just jogging there, and then like there's this group of people around me, and I was like, all right.
Started running.
we were going to just do the mile, and it was like the turnaround. So we were like, oh, let's just keep going. And so we did it. And anyways, so trying to get better at that has been interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't run all last week. I ran once with Jessica last week. So, you know,
It's cold.
give and take.
Yeah,
was
it's cold
freezing.
now, and that's a good reason not to run. I don't, yuck. Okay. You are the kind of student that I love to have in my classes, the one who works ahead.
See, I was the other way. I had to be really, really smart so I could do it at 3 a.m.
No.
But that's an art form. You have to get good at that.
Wow, so many.
Or just do your
my
homework.
students think that they can handle that, and I'm like, you can't. In fact, that
I
is.
did.
Well, not everyone's like you, Lucas.
Yes, I would say you are special. You're a special butterfly
Oh,
that you
Lucas.
can do that. I thought of. Started learning the piano when I was 8, so Mare's age, and that was for me like. It started as something that was really super fun, and I actually, have a little bit of this like natural proclivity towards it, I guess. But it was always something really fun for me. But the longer I played and the harder it got, the more discipline it took to sit and like work through the hard things. And it wasn't just happy fun ball all the time. Like there were real parts of that were difficult. And so that's, when I look at like that is something I've literally been doing for 30 plus years. Is crazy to say something like that. Like that is something that I did the discipline early and now it's easy, right? Like now it's something that is very natural and very easy. But it took a lot of work in the beginning, and it's like years, right? Like learning an instrument isn't something most people don't just, instantaneously pick it up. There's some who do, and they're really annoying. But most of us have to work at that for a while.
Shout out Josh Motley.
Well, as I say, Josh, Pastor Andrew, where you're like, Andrew's annoyingly good at all the instruments. So some people have that skill, but like that took a lot of discipline to continue. And I just read a study about how good it is for kids to persist in things that are hard. And that's why I like learning an instrument. If you have them persist past the point where they are like, it's too hard, I want to quit, that has such good mental benefits for them. So I thought that was interesting. That's what I thought about a way that required discipline.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty unfair in our marriage, though, that I had to quit World of Warcraft, but you still get to play piano.
That's so unfair. One of those is more beneficial to the kingdom than the
They're
other.
both playing.
Wow. I think you're going to have to be banned from ginger ale because it's the spicy is
spicy.
making you spicy. Okay. So we're going to have to
My
think
eyes
about
twitching again.
It'll go away eventually. It'll stop. All right. So you were talking a lot this week. There is so much scripture in the sermon this week to go through. Huge part of Romans 8. So as you were like Romans 8, I always say this too. It's super dense. Like Romans, I think, is one of the most dense books of the Bible theologically. Every time I read Romans 5 through 8, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so much.
Partially it's dense because Paul talks in this way where it's like, now if you have an apple and an apple is sliced, but you can get a pear and slice it, but that is not an apple. Like
Right.
he's like walking
Right.
you through it methodically.
It is very methodical, but it still feels really heavy. And so you were reading a lot of scriptures that talk about dying to your flesh and, what you need to do with your flesh. So anyway, there's a whole lot of scripture in the message. But one of the main things, so in Romans 8:8 says, those who are in the flesh cannot please God. And as you pointed out, it's like they don't please God a little. It's like they cannot, right? Like there's no pleasing God if you are in the flesh. And then you had this phrase where you said, my flesh is addicted to pleasing itself, which I also thought was like, whew, yeah. It's not just I'm addicted to caffeine, right? Like it's addicted to pleasing itself. Like I'm addicted essentially to selfishness. I was like, wow, okay. But so let's talk about that for a minute. You did unpack some of this in the sermon, but like let's practically, right? Because so for people like, if this topic is hard or kind of nebulous, what does it really mean when you're living according to the flesh versus living according to the spirit? So like, what are the ways that we live according to our flesh? And so it's like common. I think most people, like, that's the common lifestyle, right? It's common to live according to your flesh. It's uncommon to live according to your spirit, right? And that's the Technicolor part of it, right? Like, just step into that. So what are some really like tangible ways that we see people do that, or we do that ourselves? You live according to the flesh versus living according to the spirit. Thoughts?
I mean, for me, it's always the list that people don't read. So in Galatians 5, everybody's like, oh, the fruits of the Spirit.
Yeah.
I'm like, but there's a list before that. Let me read it to you. It says, but if you are led by the Spirit, you are not under the law.
Yeah.
Now the works of the flesh are evident. And I always love that. It's like, we all know.
We can see it.
Like it's a sexual immorality, impurity, sensuality, idolatry, sorcery, enmity, strife, jealousy, fits of anger, rivalries, dissension, divisions, envy, drunkenness, orgies, and things like these.
Oof. So other things that probably didn't get mentioned. There's,
well, it's like, you could say it's like
others
drunkenness.
like these, yeah.
And it's like it's indulging yourself. So like
Yeah.
like gluttony is not included in this list, but it is like other places, and it's like because you are basically getting drunk off food. Mm-hmm. Like you are doing that, and it's stuff that I think it's funny because it's like I will have people that come to me and they're like, well, not to be too blunt, but they're like, I can go to the strip club because it's not adultery, and I'm going, sensuality. Mm-hmm. Is that it's like that flirtatious, like you're not in sexual immorality, but
Right.
you are, indulging in being sensual. Like it's weird. So it's just like, it's not even one of those things like it's just this thing. It's like, don't even get close to it.
Yeah.
And that's how it is. And things like these, like,
And things like these, yeah.
like don't be doing that.
Right.
So it's when you're living in the flesh, like I said, it's that where it's like you have a lifestyle that you have become accustomed to. And instead of sacrificing and doing something that's worthwhile, you sacrifice worthwhile things in order to indulge that. Mm-hmm. And so it's, like when you're talking about running and things like that, I'm going, I don't like running. But even right now, like people are watching the Olympics. Mm-hmm. It's the 2026 Winter Olympics. And it's like people go, oh, these are the most talented people in the world. And I'm like, no, these are the most hardworking people in the world. Like there is some natural talent to it, but there's probably plenty of other people who are also equally as talented, but they didn't practice outside of practice.
Sure.
They didn't practice on their own. Like you can tell.
They didn't get the coach who was driving them to come to practice at 4 a.m. and spend X number, all their time at the skating rink or whatever.
Like our neighbors, these boys, they play basketball morning, noon, and night.
10 p.m. They're out in the driveway.
And so like, sometimes like our girls are like, can I play basketball? I'm like, no. And they're like, why? I'm like, you don't even own a basketball.
First of all.
Like, you don't, like, you played soccer and it was like, like, do you practice at home?
No.
So
do you engage in exercise? No. Like, are you training your body? No. Do you know the rules? No.
So yes, it's like, because, and then the next verse is, but the fruits of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. And it's like, if you're in the Spirit, you're going to be patient. Like people who are in the Spirit, you just, like you're like, man, they're so great. And then, like, and then you like them. And then people that are in the flesh, I'm like, oh yeah, like you haven't said no to anything in a long time. And it's like people, they won't say no to what they spend. They won't say no to what they eat or what they drink or any of those things.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that fruit has to be, I don't know the word for this, bared? You have to bear fruit.
Yes.
You have to grow it.
Gestated.
Sure. But a lot of the times we pray, I remember growing up, the fruits of the Spirit, song of it, love, joy, peace, patience, right? And just being like, oh yeah, I'll just get these things, from the fruits of the Spirit, from the Spirit. But you actually have to grow that within you, right? The Holy Spirit has to grow that, and there has to be time where you sit with the Lord and pray and read scripture and meditate and say no to things. Like you can't just like eat the fruits of the Spirit, right? Like they have to be grown within you. And so I think a lot of people think that it's just going to be an automatic yes, like, okay, I'm just going to be patient now. Awesome. Like I'm just going to be peaceful, and you're like, why am I not peaceful? And it's just like, you don't just get the fruits of the Spirit. You have to be with the Lord and you have to wait for them to be grown within you. And I think that is through living in the Spirit, right?
Yeah.
Like sitting with the Lord, having that discipline, saying no to things. That's the only way you're actually going to get, love, joy, peace, all those different things in your life, only from God and only from the discipline of sitting with Him and transforming and renewing your mind.
Yeah, I was just having a conversation with one of our girls this weekend, and we talked about self-control, right, as a fruit of the Spirit. She's like, man, it'd be so great if you could just go self-control, activate. And I was like, yes, it would, right? Like if you could just like superpowers, like activate the fruit of the Spirit, like just, I need patience, activate patience, right? But like you're saying, you can't, it's not like you're picking that fruit and eating it and immediately getting its benefits. Like you're saying, you have to let it grow out of you. You can't pick it off of someone else's tree. You can't pick it out of a garden. It has to come from you. It has to grow through you. But I thought that was I was like, I wish that too. I wish I could just yell, joy, activate, and then I would be full of joy.
I'm not a botanist. I don't know how every fruit is grown, but a lot of fruit is grown because it blooms a flower.
Right.
And then it has a time where it hardens. Like there's almost a forging process.
Yeah.
Like it closes in on itself and it hardens, and then it has to grow to the point where it's ready.
Yeah.
And it ripens.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, there is that part where you're like, oh, wouldn't it be nice if I had joy? Like that's it's a beautiful flower. And then it's like, okay. And then it's like this long suffering.
Right.
Right. I always think that that's terrible that we translate it patience.
Patience,
and
yeah.
it's like, no, it's long suffering. It's learning to suffer for a long time and do it well.
Yeah.
And so I think there's definitely that, refiner's fire, that forging process, that hardening process that, bears that fruit.
Well, and yeah, I do think it's safe to like all fruits come from a flower, and if you watch them grow, like you don't eat the flower, right? Like that's not the part that you eat.
You're a weirdo.
You don't eat the flower. You have to wait for it to become the fruit before you can eat it and enjoy the benefits of that. And it is fun to watch. You guys know I love plants, but like it is fun to watch things grow. Like when I plant them in my garden, right? To watch the flower on the tomatoes and then see how it does transform into the thing that you're going to eat, but you can't eat it yet. Yeah. And so I do think that's a really good point. So living according to the Spirit, first of all, I think for everybody to keep in mind, like this isn't an instantaneous kind of process, right? Where you see the fruits of that, right? Like Lucas was talking about, he gave up caffeine a week ago and he's still having side effects, right? That wasn't an instantaneous, like, I don't need caffeine and I feel great. Like your body is still having reactions to that, right? So it's not this like instantaneous process that I think we want it to be. Right? Like I decide to have the fruits of the Spirit, therefore
well,
they're going to manifest in my life,
It's a lot like the discipline of running, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, can you just go outside and run? Yeah. Are you going to be great at it? No.
Right, and can you do it for a long period of time?
And there's always going to be a period of time that could be longer.
Sure.
So it's like when people are like, man, I want patience. And I'm like, you have some patience, but you have like a 2-minute burst of patience before you have to go, and then it's like, Lord, help me. Then it's like, but if you keep at it, then it's like, okay, then it goes to 4 minutes and 5 minutes. But there's always going to be something that tests your patience.
Sure.
But then you get to the point where like the Bible talks about a gentle word turns away wrath. And so it's like when people come at you, it's almost like the thing where somebody like punches at you and you just go and block it. Like you just turn it away from you and you're like, this is very easy for me to do. Now there's going to be somebody else, it's just like that Kung Fu movie. Then they bring out the bigger guy, and you have to fight that guy. And so there's always going to be something that tests your patience.
Or two guys at the same time.
Right. And it's going to be something that pushes you.
Yeah.
And so you're never going to fully arrive.
Yeah.
But you'll get stronger. You'll be the guy that's like, oh, I'm going to go for a quick run. I accidentally ran a 5K. I was just like, I'm just going to go out for a walk. And all of a sudden, I was in a marathon. Who cares? Because you have that endurance.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. So you were talking about with the idea of the flesh, right? So again, your whole story about, your brother calling you on the carpet and be like, where does it say to discipline your flesh? You're supposed to kill it. Okay, so let's talk about that. So you had this phrase that you said where you said, like, we can't just domesticate our flesh. And so I really liked that idea, the idea that sometimes we take So again, your flesh are like kind of the things you naturally want to do, right? Like I want to have caffeine. I want, like, my body's telling me I want these things, right? And so your flesh is saying, like, you know, it's okay to have these things. This is what my body is craving or wanting or desiring. And so sometimes we domesticate the flesh. Okay, so we think of it as like taming or kind of, for me, I feel like domesticating something means like it can be controlled, right? Like if I domesticate a wild animal, I tell myself I have some control over it, but like if you're trying to domesticate a raccoon, you probably really don't, right? Like at some point, the raccoon's a wild animal, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that that's like, we think about sin and our flesh as like a thing that we can control. And that's why we don't put it to death, right? You said instead of domesticating it, you have to put it down, like kill it. So I was just curious, like, do you think that, first of all, do you think a lot of people do that? Like they have that mindset of, I can just domesticate this. I can just keep it in check. I can tame it. And is that potentially a dangerous mindset in terms of just this idea of dying to yourself, killing your flesh?
Yes.
In what ways?
Because when you domesticate something, you feed it. Like,
Oh, okay.
Like you can't domesticate it. Like that's primarily how you domesticate something. Like if there's a stray cat outside, what do? You put out a bowl of milk. You put out food.
Yeah, what do you do, Lucas?
Listen, if I could domesticate any animal, I would.
We live near the Greenway, and so we have wild animals in our backyard all the time. And Lucas, there's a whole lot of stray cats. And Lucas is like, what if I just put out some food for the kitties and we just get another cat?
And if it's a raccoon,
yeah, or a possum or a fox. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh.
then we do have foxes.
We'd have a whole menagerie if you fed everything.
Right, but that's how people live. They have a menagerie of sin in their life.
Ooh.
But it's like they do. They put out, they feed it. You know, it's like I'll give this, you know, my time, I'll give it my effort, I'll give it my money, and you start to feed these things, and so then they stick around. But the thing is, once you stop feeding them, they come for you. So like, what's, you know, I always tell.
No, that's true. That's good though.
This is how we're gonna get canceled. Are you ready?
Oh boy.
I have this thing about.
Thank you for watching the 167. We might not see you again.
Yeah, I have this thing about animals where animals are animals.
Yeah.
And so dogs are only domesticated because we breed them and feed them that way.
Sure.
If you go to any other country in the world, they are not domesticated.
Yeah, they
Cats
are
not domesticated.
wild,
Yes.
right.
And so they're just wild animals.
Yeah.
And so I always tell people, I'm like, you know, if the apocalypse hits, you know, I said, you are 1 week away from eating that dog and it's 2 weeks away from eating you. You know, and I'm just like, because that's the way that it is.
Sure, that's its nature.
It's its nature. If it gets hungry enough, it will turn on you.
Right.
And so I see that with people that, you know, you see people in other countries that they domesticate cougars and bobcats, and I'm going, that's because you feed it. And the minute you stop feeding it, it will no longer be your friend. And so, like right now, the thing that was my friend that kept me awake is now giving me a sinus infection. Because it's mad at me. You know, like...
Your body's mad at you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's those things, but like your sin is like that too. And I think especially we don't admit what we get from our sin.
Okay.
And this is the sad part. Like, you know, again, I want to say this very gently to people because this is not everybody. There are some people that stand, and that's why I talked about crisis.
Yeah.
It's not that you're trying and struggling to get out, right? It's people stay in crisis because there's something they get out of it. I know people that they are in the hospital all the time and doctors can't figure out what's wrong with them.
Yep.
And it's not a spiritual issue. It is an attention issue. It's, you know, they just want the attention. They, you know, convince themselves that they're sick because people fawn all over them for their visit and they're racking up medical debt. Like, it's crazy. But there are people that do that. There are people that they take what has happened to them that was abusive. Mm-hmm. And there's people that magnify things, right? There's people that they got spanked as a kid and they're like, I was abused, right? And they magnify it to get attention. But there's also people that legitimately were abused and they're trying to get out of it. But there are also people that are abused and they use it now to excuse every bad behavior that they have is, oh, I can't be held responsible and I can't be held accountable for this. I was abused. And I'm going, at that point, you know, like you are trying to domesticate the thing. You want to live with it.
Yeah.
You want to live with your anxiety. You want to live with depression, trauma, because there are bad behaviors that you get away with.
Right.
Because you're like, well, you don't understand. I have
this. Yeah. I've had this
And
experience.
and I will pick on this as like an example because I'm just coming for everybody. There are people that legitimately have pets that like that help them, that are trained pets,
Yes,
that they're,
right.
it's a thing. And I literally sat next to a woman on a plane, and she was like, she had this massive dog, and she was like, it's my emotional support animal. And I'm like, sure it is. Because that dog was freaking out on that plane. And I sat next to her, and I comforted this dog for the entire 4-hour flight. I was its emotional support human. And through the plane, I just asked her, I'm like, what were you doing here? How's it going? And she said, well, really, I'm going through a divorce, and this is the only way I could get the dog on the plane. And I'm like, yes. And so there are people that do that. They use stuff like that
Sure.
in order to get away with behavior.
Yeah.
So it's like, she didn't need that dog, but she wanted to get it on the plane, and so she uses this thing. And so I think that people do that with some trauma and some sin. Is I have this sin because it allows me to get away with whatever I want.
Interesting. Megan, what do you think about that?
Is anybody still listening at this point?
Yes,
I
I'm
hate
sure
when
they
Lucas
are.
talks first. No, what I was gonna say is pretty dang similar, but so like it made me think of we live at Tallgrass, the apartments, and it is a dog loving, dog friendly place.
Okay.
Which is awesome. We don't have a dog or a pet yet. I want one so bad. But there's our neighbors. We have like 5 or 6 neighbors that live around us. All of them have big pit bull German Shepherd dogs.
Really?
Okay.
Okay.
And like Jonah will walk out in the morning and we'll see like, they're letting their dogs out, walking and stuff. And these dogs are just like off their leashes, almost like,
Yeah.
trying to like climb towards these humans that are just walking by or whatever. And Jonah's like, good morning. And the dog's like, "Ugh," like, trying so hard to like attack
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh my gosh. And the owner is this like person who is just like, oh, come on, buddy. It's okay. Like, let's go. And the dog's like trying to get out, you
Yeah.
know? And so Jonah's
Normally
like,
so calm.
right? Jonah's like, this dog is going to eat me and then eat his human. Like, this is not good. And so I just think about like all the times like that is our flesh. We're like, clawing at ourselves. Like, I'm
Right.
not supposed to be doing right. Like
Right.
our flesh, like, and our spirit's like, it's okay. Like, come on, you
Yeah.
can do this.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think it's so interesting that a lot of the times we have these things in our lives, we feed it though, and it can give us protection or,
Sure.
it saves us from things or whatever. But ultimately, like, it's like killing you, or it's like, you're on this leash, like trying to control it, and your flesh is like, I'm not going to be controlled.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so,
this is a great point though, because people do that, and it's like what they're doing is hurting other people, and it's scaring other people.
Yes.
And then they're like, I don't know why I'm so lonely. I don't know why does nobody want to hang out with me? And
Right.
I'm like,
right?
Right. Yes, this is one of my, like, Lucas and I have a lot of things about dogs, but like it's when my girls were little, they were both really terrified of dogs. And like it's the thing where you go to the park and someone's walking a dog, and that's fine. Like you absolutely are able to do that. But the dog would try to come up to the girls when they were little, and they would both be scared. And the people would be like, oh, it's okay. My dog's really nice. Like, it's okay. The dog's really friendly. And I was like, but they're scared of it, right? Like, so.
like they weren't pulling the dog away from
Right,
us.
right. I was like, so you can like this, and I think sometimes in this domestication process, we're like, it's okay, it won't hurt you, it's okay, it won't hurt me, it's okay, it won't hurt anybody else, right? Like it's okay. And other people, like you said, are like, oh, like I can see this, right? Like this is not good. Like you're saying, like this dog is gonna eat me at some point, right? But we don't, like, we kind of blind ourselves to that, I think, in our own lives, right? Like, oh no, my dog is fine. My dog, I can control my dog.
I know there's a listener right now that's like, but my pit bull, it's so cute. And
No,
I'm like,
literally.
That dog is bred to fight.
It's
like it's got a jaw that locks in place.
And like, I understand it protects you and it makes
Sure.
you feel safe.
Yeah.
But
But that's exactly what it does.
Right.
It makes me feel normal. It makes me feel safe, and it makes me feel protected.
right. Even if it's going to bite your hand. Like, it's
Yes.
like, and then it's actually hurting
yeah.
you and then hurting other people.
At the risk of the danger of that, right? So I think it's interesting when you use that word domestication, because I do think that we tend to tell ourselves, I can keep this under control, right? I'm just having a couple of drinks, right? So I have that under control. Or if
And I might be drunk, but I'm drunk at home.
right, or I drink at home, or I'm not hurting anyone.
Yes, I have to have a couple of beers, but
Right.
it's
It
just a couple of
takes
beers.
the edge off. Like, I think we just kind of lie to ourselves with these kinds of expressions. And, there's a whole bunch of, I see these memes and reels and stuff about, mommy needs a glass of wine culture. Like, if you need a
Right,
glass
that's
of
the-
wine at the end of the day to help you unwind, like, you have been trying to domesticate a thing that's actually taking control of you. So that is one of the things you were talking about. Like, we have these things in our lives that's like, I need this. I can't live without this. This helps me to function. So you said that's not the lie you were believing about caffeine. Is it like, I need this to function?
Right. I'm not saying that drinking soda or caffeine is sinful.
Right. But
It was
you were
sinful
saying,
that my reliance.
I was saying, you were saying that was the point you were making, is that you were at a point where you were like, oh, I have told myself for so long that I cannot function without caffeine. Right. And that's why you said it was this conviction from the Lord and from Adam. And not
brother.
Your brother and not your wife, who may have said similar things to you in the past 17 years. But.
What? I have a wife?
So could you guys think of, are there other things that you think people say that about? Like, what are some of the other things that commonly, like, we quote unquote rely on? I can't function without this. I need, and I know caffeine's a big one. Like, even I will say, I regularly drink 2 cups of coffee in the morning.
It's like, you want me to come for you or
No,
not?
I mean, and I will admit that I said, so I think,
Mama
I do
needs
think,
her coffee.
I don't say that, but
No,
I
I'm
do.
saying a lot of people are like, they wear shirts that say like, don't talk to me until I have my coffee.
Don't talk to me. All I need is coffee and Jesus. First of all, I think that's bad theology. Okay, you don't need coffee and Jesus.
You don't need Jesus and anything.
Right. Anyway, that's a separate subtopic. What are some? Megan's gonna go first. What are some other things that you hear people say, like, I have to have this, I can't live without this. This I need this to function. Otherwise I'm gonna whatever.
Their phones.
Oh, that's a good one.
Their phones. I think, or what?
Love it.
I don't think I'm going to get caffeine up before I try that.
Before you reduce your screen time? Okay.
So for Lent, I mean, this is a whole different thing, but I gave up social media.
Okay.
And I really felt like, cause I was like, God, what do you want me to give up? Because Lent and fasting isn't just like, you talk about this. It's not just about like struggling through something to
Right.
say, oh, I struggled. Right.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm removing something to fill it with the Lord.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
And so anyways, I really felt like God was like, social media is not good for you. And whether I'm going to get it back after Lent, I don't know.
Okay.
But people are addicted.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, especially when TikTok came out.
Yeah.
I had it for like a couple days, I think. And I remember scrolling through, I was like, I go to bed, good time, 9-ish, 9:30, you know. I think a freshman in college or just about to go into college that summer. So I was like an adult. I was like 18. And I spent 3 hours just like scrolling.
Yeah.
And after that, I was like, I am never doing this again. Deleted the app, and I still have not had TikTok since.
Yeah.
But then TikTok went into Instagram,
Right,
and
right,
YouTube, and
right,
Facebook, and I
right.
was like, oh my gosh. And so, especially with everything that's going on with Epstein files, and just like social media is now just a marketing business,
Right.
or it's like evil. Like truly, I don't see like my college roommates like baby post anymore, right?
Right.
Like I just don't.
Yeah.
And so I really felt like the Lord was like, this is just only giving you evil, you know? And I know social media can be good and things like that, but for me, I was just like, no. So I gave that up, but I feel like a lot of people need that.
Sure.
And then there's like,
Sure.
especially Gen Z and the younger kids, there's a lot of studies coming out. Like if you don't have your phone, like you will have anxiety, or you hear, like your brain thinks that here's a notification, but it's not actually happening.
Yeah.
Like
That your
there's-
leg is vibrating.
yeah, or like, yeah,
Yeah.
you hear your text tone and it's
Right.
like that nothing just happened.
Right.
And so it's like a literal addiction to this thing that's
Yeah.
like the dopamine and the hits and like the entertainment. Or I think there was a thing, I was reading a study where if you watch TV and you're on your phone at the same time, there's just so many things that we're addicted to nowadays, and it's so crazy. So I guess social media, your phone, like that is something that people, they're like, oh, I don't need that, like it's fine. And then you're like, forget your phone.
Right.
When you're going to work, oh, gotta go back.
Right.
Getting my phone.
Right. I
can't
can't-
survive.
I can't go without it. Yeah.
And
I
yeah,
don't know how to function without that.
it's crazy.
Yeah, I have seen a bunch of those lately too. That are like, oh, I'm going to watch this on my big screen while doing this on my small screen. Like
Yes.
that. And again, it's like the normalization of that kind of behavior that helps us excuse it a lot of the time too. Like, oh, this is what everybody does, right? And this is just how we function. This is just what's normal.
So apparently every movie that Netflix makes, they have to build into the script. They said every 15 minutes, one character has to summarize what's happening, because they know that you're watching
Because
Netflix while scrolling.
people
So
aren't paying attention.
They said if you pay attention to things that are made by Netflix, about every 15 minutes, some character go, so this guy's pursuing us because blah, 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 blah,
Oh
blah.
my
And we have to do
gosh.
this. And they're
Wow.
like, but they're like, they couch it in different ways, but they're
Sure.
literally just summarizing the plot
Because
every
they know
15
you're not
minutes 'cause
paying
they know you're not
attention.
listening.
That's crazy.
Okay, so that, like, this is a sidebar, but like if you haven't, parents especially, if you haven't read The Anxious Generation, I would highly recommend that. It's very much about what technology and devices are doing to our kids, and the decline of attention that is coming through these devices. But so here's a fun little fact. I did just read an article about how long format storytelling, right? So like not completely banning screens, but like the long format storytelling. So watching a whole movie
rather than an episode
without your phone, but watching a movie and engage, like letting your kids watch a movie is so much better for their brains than letting them watch TikTok or YouTube or short format media, because that's training their brain, like you said, to crave those chemical hits that they're getting off of that
short time.
Right? Those short things versus reading a book is like the best, but like even watching a movie, because you're focusing on a long format story, and that there is actually benefits to that in your brain versus like you're saying the short format. Like you said, you noticed it. You're like, oh my gosh, I just wasted 3 hours. Oh my, like, and then you spiral into like guilt and shame.
Yeah.
And what did I do with myself?
I notice like whenever I sit down, like whenever I have any bout of free time, I will go on my phone and I will look for social media apps.
Yeah.
And I sit down and like, okay. So I just set my phone away now. Like I don't need to be on my phone.
Sure.
But there's that addiction there that people need it.
Well, yeah, and I think culture like reaffirms that, because it's like they expect you also to be accessible all the time, right? So it's like, well, I can't put my phone down, because then what if somebody needs me, right? Like I can't, my kids do this. Like I can't. What if I need something on my work app, right? Like what if somebody posts something in the group chat? What like I'm gonna miss it,
right?
We're like, yeah, it's not that big.
I'm
of
like,
a deal.
I have 54 notifications on GroupMe.
I know. I'm like,
Literally.
Your Culver's app will wait. It's fine. And there's nothing urgent in the Culver's app. You can wait and check it later.
It just shows you, though, the addiction with teenagers, because we only let our kids have boring apps, and they're still addicted to them.
Yes.
It's like, oh, I have this thing for work.
Right.
It's like, I got to check the chat at work. I'm like, why?
Not-
Are you
not-
seeing who's dropping a shift?
Yeah.
But they just have to touch it.
There's some tea in the group chat normally.
Their group chat is different though. I feel like, why are you in the Culver's app?
don't-
Like what?
They're bringing back mac and cheese at Culver's. Oh, my gosh.
Listen, they have read me some things and I'm like, oh, I see why you want to get, there's some drama.
But there's also this thing, like, and you guys are touching on it, like, you can recognize that. It's like, oh, it's social media. Oh, it could be this or that. But it's really what's underneath it, which is it makes me anxious not to be connected.
Yeah.
Like, we used to just go places and you just were with who you were with, and that was it.
That was it.
Like,
choose wisely.
yeah. And like, I mean, literally, like, I would ride my bike somewhere with my friends, and my parents did not know where I was. I just had a standard rule of like, hey, you have to be home by dinner.
That stresses me out so much now to think about how we did stuff like we have even recently talked about, so our daughters are 17 and 16, and Lucas is like, we should let them drive here or drive there. And I'm like, oh, that stresses me out. But like when we were 17, Lucas is like, I was driving to downtown Chicago by myself at 17. I was like, that's insane.
Like, my
I would
parents-
never
Yeah,
let the girls drive downtown by themselves.
Like, at post prom, my junior year, we drove to Brookfield Zoo. I think we actually took the
Wild.
Metro.
That's wild.
Like, we just took the Metro into
not-
Brookfield,
that-
like, went to
oh
the
my
zoo for the
gosh.
day and came back. We went to Great America. Where's that, Gurney?
It's, yeah.
Like, we drove to Great America by ourselves and just ran around the park as teenagers and came home. And no one died.
But it's still like, it's the like, that gives me anxiety to think about letting our kids do that, because I don't feel like they're trained to handle those situations.
Well, and that was like, we did that one time, and Eric, actually, I think it was Eric, got a flat tire.
Oh gosh.
And we just changed
You had
it.
to figure it out.
Yeah, and we had to drive
Yeah.
home on the highway on a donut.
Okay, we're derailing. We're getting off track here from some of the things I want to
it's
talk about. But
yeah, but I mean, like, I think that is important, is to ask yourself, what is the underlying thing that I'm afraid of or benefiting from?
Yeah.
Because like, you can, people are addicted to nicotine, yes, but people are also addicted to pleasing their children.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
it's like, we always talk about this too, where like, if you want to work with youth and you care at all what a teenager thinks of you, you should not. Because like, you're going to go into youth and they're going to be like, "Oh, Mr. Motley, that's not cool." And I'll be like, "Oh no, like, I should, keep all your secrets and not challenge you on anything." And I'm like, when I go to youth, they're like, "That's not cool." I'm like, What would you know about that?
I don't really care what you think.
I'm married. Why would I take dating advice from you?
Look at your
Shut up.
socks. I'm not going to take you seriously.
You're wearing socks with slides. Why would I listen
God,
to you?
dude, come on. Your judgment is impaired. So you were talking about, so this idea, again, like we say these things like, can't live without this and I need this to function, but you were like, the only way to kill your flesh then, which is what scripture tells us to do, die to yourself, right? I've been crucified with Christ. It's no longer I who live, but Christ who lives within me, is that we have to starve that out.
Yeah.
You got to starve it out. You got to stop feeding it. So if you're domesticating by feeding a thing, you've got to start starving it out. And so I was just thinking about this, like, I don't know how many funerals you guys have been to. A lot. We've been to a lot because you're a pastor. So Lucas does a lot of funerals. Personally, I hate when there's an open casket because like dead bodies give me the creeps. They just really do. Because if you've ever looked at a corpse, like someone in a coffin at a funeral, like in a visitation, it kind of looks like the person, but not really, right? Like, you know, like, oh, that's not. That's like an impersonation of what that person really looked like, right? Because they're not alive anymore. There's nothing animating them. And so, like, it's kind of weird and gross to look at a body, which, sidebar, also, we try to tell, like, we've told our kids, don't put us in a casket. If something happens to us, we want to be cremated.
I want to be burned on a pyre like Darth Vader.
Lucas wants that. We're probably just going to be cremated. So, like, that's what I'm going to do. But, so, like, it doesn't look like the person when they had life, right? When they were animated with the life that they had. It's like a shell. So, if we think about that in the spiritual terms, if your old self is like a corpse in a casket, right? Why do we want to keep that around? That, like I said, to me, like, I hate that moment of going through a funeral line and looking at the quote unquote person in the casket, because I'm like, that's not the person that I knew, right? Like, I hate it so much. Like, oh, you know, the morticians did such a nice job, and they can do as good of a job as they can, but it's still not the same, right? So it's like, I don't want that.
Well, it's this weird thing because, again, Paul is, especially in Romans 8 and then in Galatians 5 and 2 Corinthians. Oh, I'm going to lose that now. But anyways, all through the New Testament, this is when we do. We can't remember in the New Testament it says
Paul
that's a
often
broad.
says.
Paul often talks about this concept, but it's a weird thing because it's when you start to mix metaphors and you change in and out. Because he's like, you have to die to your flesh.
Yep.
And he's like, you have to live in your spirit. But then he says that your spirit animates your flesh. And so it's this weird juxtaposition that it's like, yes, if you kill your flesh, if you empty your flesh, it becomes this shell.
Yeah.
Right? But then if you can picture then, like somebody being resurrected from the dead. So like they leave their body and you can immediately tell. Like I've sat with people in hospice.
Right.
Like when they die, you're like, oh, there it went.
Yes, when the spirit leaves the body.
Yeah, you're just like, immediately you're like, oh, this is done. But if you think about then that it gets reanimated, I'm going, that's what he's talking about. He's saying if you're living in the spirit, it means that your spirit, your mind and your will and your emotions are interlocked with the Holy Spirit of Christ. So it's like, so that's why he says, no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me.
In me, yeah.
And so you're literally swapping out the batteries in a sense. You are emptying yourself of your flesh. You're saying, hey, flesh, you can't control anymore. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert the Holy Spirit, and now you are a puppet for Jesus Christ. Like,
interesting.
You're using your flesh, now your body, in a way that Jesus Christ wants, and your flesh is going, no, you have to feed me. No, you have to give me nicotine. No, we have to do that. We have to look at pornography. We want dopamine, right? We want this one, and then, but the inner part, the part that powers you and animates you, is going, no, you will move when I tell you to move. And I mean, like, I've felt this with, so we used to do this thing, speaking of 90s Christian culture, we used to do this thing called 30-hour famine.
I
we
remember
did that
30-hour
too.
famine.
Yeah, I
Is that
know.
still around?
Yeah.
Okay, 30-hour famine.
And so you would, it's teaching kids to fast.
Fast, yeah.
But so, like, they would fast, and it's like a jump-a-thon, but just not eating. Like, you get people to sponsor you, I'll pay you $1 for every hour you won't eat, and that's 30 hours.
Right.
And so I would end up always, because it was always a Friday night and a Saturday, but I was a manager at Subway, and so I'd always end up working. And so I'd have to work this 8 to 12 shift or 8 to 4 shift at Subway whilst fasting.
Yeah.
And I would be talking to somebody, and I would literally reach in because we would just like snack on the pickles and jalapenos and green pepper stuff like that. And I'd be talking to somebody and reach in and grab something and almost get it to my mouth and go, oh, because the minute I became aware of it, I was like, no, I'm fasting. But literally, it was like my body was like, hey, you're hungry. And I just reached because it was automatic.
Yeah.
It was automatic. And so like if you can shut that down in your flesh and only do the things that you actually, want to do and are doing. Like, so that's the goal, is that's Christ in you going, hey, I want you to go talk to that person to pray. And your flesh is going to go, it's going to get anxious, right? It's going to shake. It's going to do,
right.
It's like, whoa, no, you can't do that. And I'm just like, and you just get up.
Yeah.
And you move because Christ told you to do that.
Well, and just to backtrack, like you said, you only do the things you want to. I think you're meaning like only do the things that the Spirit is.
Yeah, like Paul says, I do the things that I don't want to do, and I won't do the things that I actually want to do.
Right.
And
then that's the distinction of like I don't want to do, my flesh wants these things, my spirit wants these different things. And so the, how do you put the one to death and live in the other? I do have a follow-up question on that, and Megan, your thoughts too. So like if we're in that phase where it's okay, so I have killed this old self, I don't want the corpse to just stay there, I want to reanimate with the Holy Spirit, because again, guys, having a corpse in your living room is gross. It's just weird. I'm not saying if you just have the old self there all the time and you don't reanimate it with the Holy Spirit,
your flesh.
Yeah, then it's gross, right? Like, I don't know, that's just a visual for me that I keep thinking about. But like once we are starting to try to live by the Spirit instead of in our flesh, tell me your thoughts on this, because so like I have been someone who I've said this before, but like I'm a big rule follower, right? Like I want to do the right thing, quote unquote right thing, all the time. And I came to a point in my adult life where I realized like a lot of that leads towards legalism and self-righteousness, and that I'm doing that for my own, the sake of my own goodness, rather than this living by the Spirit, right? And so do you guys feel like there's a good way to help people like not just get caught up in the quote unquote doing the right thing for the sake of doing the right thing? But so what's the difference between that? So if I say I'm not going to drink and I'm not going to smoke and I'm not going to watch bad movies, like how do we keep that from being this sort of legalistic list of rules that we're just adhering to?
Yeah. I think I've heard about this before, and I think Lucas kind of talked about it, but not just something you do, but it's something like who you are or who you become. So like I don't smoke anymore versus like I'm not a smoker, I'm a non-smoker, like that, whatever teaching that is.
Yeah.
And I think like, especially for me, like I'm a list person, I'm a checkbox person. So if that's all it is to me, that's all it is. And then I'm just going to be like, well, I didn't do this today. And I'm, it throws off my whole day versus like, no, I don't just like read my Bible and then I pray for 5 minutes and then I do this, right? That's just the checkbox. But if I'm sitting with the Lord and then he tells me to read this scripture, or I'm going to read the three chapters today, and then the Lord told me this, and then I have to go read this, like, oh, then I just want to pray. And then he brought this to my mind, like doing something, like, and kind of making it not necessarily your identity, but doing something and it being a part of you versus just doing something on the piece of paper or like the law, right? Like having something written down and only following this rigid rules versus no, this is something I am becoming, and this is something I do, not something that I just have to, follow, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And it's that's what we talked about, a deep knowing. You have to know the motivation behind why you're doing it. Otherwise, you'll just keep doing it, or you'll substitute.
Yes.
It's like, oh, I get anxious, so I smoke, and then I give up smoking, so I pick up eating.
Right.
It's like, rather than dealing with why you're smoking in the first place.
Yeah.
And so, but I think that's true of like, you can even see that about like, I think influencers understand this. So influencers cultivate a persona online. And so if you are a fitness influencer, you're never going to post a picture of you bloated eating pizza. Like, unless it's one of those posts that's like, look, I'm human.
Right.
And then they go right back to posting everything else.
Right.
It's like, my identity is 6-pack abs.
Yeah.
And so I have to do everything within my power to keep that. I have to do everything. Every one of my postings is going to be about that. It's going to, look at this workout, look at this. And it's just like, and you don't realize that those people are living this radically different lifestyle than
Sure, yeah.
like they're coming online and going, if you just do this for 14 days, you'll look like me. And I'm like,
No.
Yep.
bro, you are on TRT to the max.
Right, there's no
It's-
way.
It's Liver King. It was
Yeah.
the guy that was like, if you just eat raw liver, you look like this. And it turns out he was roiding the whole time.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, so it's, but influencers understand that it's like you have to cultivate that lifestyle. And so, you know, I think that if we don't just want to go back to what we're doing, or we're not, like, you have to, again, decide who you want to be. Like, they decided this is what my channel is entirely going to be about. This is what my life is mostly going to be about. And so if I'm going to mostly be about fitness, then I have to go to the gym. I have to eat this way. I have to do
Right.
it. Changes everything that you do. And so if you adopt that identity, it's great, because you can start to hedge around that. But it's like, you know, other than it's just like, I'm going to try this experiment. Like, that was, I told you that was the first thing that Sarah said to me, was like, well, when can I restock the Mountain Dew? And I'm like, never.
Don't do it.
And that has honestly been a lot easier to think of it that way, of going, oh, if I could just last for a week, then I can have a Mountain Dew, rather than going, no, that part of my life's done.
Right.
So it's like, it's easier to leave it behind if you can do that.
Yeah.
And so we don't do that with relationships. A lot of times we're always like, what about my ex? You know, like,
Right.
we don't do
Right.
that with a lot of things in our life. It's like, you know, I didn't die to pornography. I'm just like trying to make it. One time I made it 7 days, so now I'm going to try and make it 8.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't like, we've talked about this before, that's why I don't like AA. Because it's like, well, I'm 3 months sober, but any day now, because I'm an alcoholic, I could, and I'm like, and when we
Yeah.
come to freedom, it's like, you are not an alcoholic.
Right.
You are a son of God. Why would a son of God be an alcoholic? Well, I
Right.
wouldn't. Great.
Right. Right. Also, dead men don't need alcohol.
Dead men don't need alcohol.
They don't need it. Like you were saying, and dead men don't need caffeine. Mountain Dew. All right, so we are continuing. We got another week of this series. We'll check back in with Lucas about how his caffeine withdrawals are going next week on the 167.
The eye twitches. And
Maybe
stuffy
his eye
nose.
twitch will be gone by next week. Maybe
I just
his
want the dry mouth to be gone.
his nose will be better. We'll check back in on that next week. We want to encourage you, if there's something that you feel like the Holy Spirit is calling you to move out of, right? Like to die to something in your flesh. Share those stories with us. We want to hear those, hear how it's going, see how we can encourage you. And we will, like I said, we got one more week in the series, right? So we're going to keep talking about what does the life in Technicolor really look like, and how do we live that John 10:10 abundant life. Thanks for being here today. We'll see you guys next time on the 167.
If you enjoyed this episode of the 167, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, get notified, leave a 5-star rating and a positive review. Tell all your friends to listen as well. Make sure you go over to newlifegardener.com and check out all that we have to offer as a church, and check out our messages online as well. Thanks for listening.